Take 3, Autoblog.
All right. So the first question is, and you talked a little bit about this before, the sheer amount of detail. But was there anything in what you saw from either Long Beach or the game in general that actually shocked you and surprised you that they had in the game?
The thing that shocked me the most when I saw Long Beach for the first time on Forza 5 was the curbings. The curbs are very, very important around Long Beach, and they're very hard to simulate, in my opinion. They're crucial to the lap time around that place. Specifically, the curbs out of Turn 5, there's these very bread loaf-looking like curbs, and you can cut them a little bit to make some lap time up, but if you take too much, it ends up pushing you into the wall, and if you take too little, it's probably a little too slow. And to me, Forza 5 captured that pretty perfectly. They look the way they should, they feel the way they should, and I think it gives you the lap time about how it would in real life, which was very shocking to me. That stuff's very hard to simulate because some of that's driver stuff that you might not necessarily see when you walk the track or try to model it, and they somehow got it all right. They got all that detail correct, and everything outside of that, all the buildings and everything around Long Beach. There's so much detail around that place, and there's so much color and so much to get right that it would be understandable if you'd missed something or you didn't get everything. And it's hard to pick out what they missed. I didn't see anything that was wrong with the track, which was just phenomenal to me.
Well, that probably answers my second question. The other one was there anything specifically that you called out to the team that you would want to see in there but you didn't?
Long Beach, there was nothing that I could see that I wanted that wasn't there. It was great. The track felt right. There's certain things from the IndyCar that I want maybe a little differently, and I've definitely said a couple words to the guys about what I'd love to see the IndyCar do in the future in the game. But the track itself looks incredible. I mean, there's nothing about it that doesn't feel right. And to me, it's just great. It's a great track. It's a great track to have on Forza. I mean, it's such a marquee event for IndyCar drivers, for Formula One drivers in the past, for sports car drivers. It's one of those tracks that's always going to be around. It's been around for 40 plus years, and it's not going anywhere, I don't think, anytime soon. So to have it on the game is a very, very easy step, I think. I think it was easy for them to make that decision. If they're going to make a street course, Long Beach is the place you got to make.
And we talked a little bit about this earlier, how simulations in race car driving is becoming more and more prevalent as technology increases. And then obviously Forza Motorsport 5 being a simulation racer, taking the hardcore 4-driver simulation, comparing it to something like Forza 5, what are kind of the similarities and differences that stand out to you kind of between those two things?
The big thing with Forza 5 is that it's a little more broad. So you're gonna get a large range of driving simulations on one game. They have to simulate 400 cars. I mean, there's so many cars that they have to simulate, and that's very difficult to get all the tire models and all the suspension models for every single race car. And that's kind of what Forza does very, very well, is that they can try and get everything in a large scope. Whereas in a manufacturer's simulator, maybe Honda's simulator or Dallara's simulator, which produces the IndyCar chassis, they're focused on just one car. They focus on one tire, one chassis, one suspension model, and they have a singular vision. Whereas Forza tries to capture everything. And to me, it's amazing how they make such a large range game that can fit all these different vehicles with all these different tires in, and they're all pretty damn close. I mean, that's amazing to me that they can put all that detail and all that modeling in one game. And really the detail of Forza is what stands out. They know how to detail a game better than anyone. I mean, the tracks, the cars is second to none. They do not miss details very often. There's not much that you will find wrong on a track or a car in the game.
Awesome. I saw you actually racing the track earlier. Are you faster in the game or are you faster in real life?
I am faster in real life around Long Beach, which is probably a good thing. I think it's probably, if I was going to choose to be faster in the game or faster in real life, I would definitely choose real life. But, that kind of makes a challenge. If I'm not fast in the game right now, then the good thing is I can go home, I can sit on my couch, and I can just sit there for hours and try and figure it out and figure out what I'm not doing right or work on the setup. And that's what I kind of get a kick out of. When I'm away from the racetrack, I still want to have something that gives me that competitive feeling and gives me that adrenaline rush. And Forza's always given me that. It's always given me a place to be competitive with other racers that might not be racers in real life, but really they are racers. They're racers on an online community, and they're Forza racers. So it's a very cool thing to have at your disposal. If you want to go to a place and still be competitive, Forza provides that for you.
I know you said a little bit earlier, we were talking about kind of your favorite car in Forza, and how you naturally want to go for the highest performance, the highest speed. But if you were to pick a car or a style that is a little bit opposed to the Indy open wheels style in Forza 5, what would it be?
Forza 5 has so many cars. I've always gravitated to the fastest car in the game. Whatever it was at the time, whatever version of the game, whatever the quickest car that at that current point was, that's the one I wanted to drive. But they have everything. You know, the cool thing about Forza is they model so many cars that if you have a favorite car in real life, you get to drive that car in the game. I've always loved M3s. I was always a BMW fan, and it's cool to be able to drive that car and modify it and take it to tracks and see how it would compare to a real race car. And there was always that opportunity with the game. I also like driving the STI in the game. I had a Subaru STI when I was younger, and it was fun for me to be able to see that in a game and then try and modify it in the game and see how you can make the car faster and how that car would actually feel around a racetrack. I never got a chance to drive that car on a track, and Forza gives you that opportunity. So that's what's cool about it. It's very versatile, where you can take the game and use it how you want to use it. If you want to use it purely for racing purposes and just use race cars, they have them there. But if you want to use it as maybe a car collector or someone that's just a fan of cars, then you have that opportunity too. And it just covers such a large scope of people that it's pretty amazing.
And just to touch on one last question, and you just kind of touched on it there about you not only get to take the car itself, but you can modify it, you can change things, you can customize. Have you dug into that in the Forza series very much, and what about that is appealing to you?
The cool thing about Forza and being able to modify cars is that it gives you a little bit deeper look into what makes cars cars. There's more underneath the skin of it. There's the beauty of it, which people love, and Forza is probably the best at the beauty of it. They understand how to make the car look real, and you get to appreciate cars on a video game, not just in real life. You might not even be able to ever see a McLaren P1 in real life, but you could see it in Forza, and it would be realistic, and it would look how it would normally look in real life. So that's a very cool aspect of it. But then underneath the skin, you also are able to look at the suspension and the way the suspension works. You can change the suspension. You can see how changing the suspension affects the car on a racetrack. And that's a unique opportunity that most people don't get. They might not be able to do that in real life, but Forza, it gives you a place where you can try that. You get a little bit of feel for it and get more of an appreciation for maybe your favorite car in the world.
Awesome. Well, that's it. Thank you so much.
No worries.
Appreciate it. Yeah, the one other thing we'd like, if you've got another 2 minutes, is just to grab a little video portrait of you, just as we kind of intro the piece.
Sure.